Hello, I'm Natalie from Hack Manufacturing, and this video is about my journey in launching a new product with no experience in business or marketing. This is the third video in my three-part work-focused vlog. The first video covers my corporate employments, and the second video covers my freelancing work, and both of those videos are linked in the description below. So this project took up most of 2021, and there's no way I can fit everything into a 15-minute video. So I will just be touching on what I was getting up to in each quarter. I created this ear saver during the pandemic to stop the loops of your face mask from pulling on the backs of your ears. My intention to start with wasn't to do a full product launch. I just saw it as something to sell on eBay. I didn't follow any methods from any product gurus out there. I didn't do any research on launching at all, to be honest, because before I knew it, I was going a million miles an hour with the program I was on. I will say that I was surrounded by the right people with a lot of experience with their own businesses. And from what I gathered at the time, the journey was going to be a roller coaster, and there's nothing that can prepare you for it anyway. In the first quarter, I was settled into an amazing co-working space called Plus X that managed to stay open during lockdown. I had my eye on using their workshop because they had loads of 3D printers. The staff at Plus X saw that I was doing design, and they asked me if I was working on any of my own inventions. I told them that I wanted to redesign these ear savers, but hadn't actually made much progress on it. I was reading the reviews on Amazon, and the issues people were having I thought were easily fixable through design, and it wouldn't take me long to design those flaws out. So they told me about a program called Bright, which is a collaboration between Plus X and Brighton University to support businesses in developing new innovations. The support was one-to-one sessions with experts in any part of a business like sales, IP law, accounting, branding, partnerships, and loads more. They had workshops, seminars, networking events, and some pretty intense 6 to 12 month training programs. It also included full access to the building facilities like the workshop and the photo studio. As I'd never touched marketing or business before in my life, I knew I was going to be fumbling around in the dark to take it past eBay. But I like a challenge. It's a tiny, simple product, and it's very cheap for me to make, so my losses were minimal if it flops. It was also a COVID product too, so I knew I only had a finite amount of time to get it going. I wanted to learn more than engineering, and Bright was offering the support, so I jumped in with both feet. My proposal was to get this product into the NHS supply chain where it had longevity past the coronavirus. And looking back on it now, I might have bitten off a bit more than I could chew. I went from knowing everything as an intermediate design engineer to knowing nothing as a business person. Every single week, it felt like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But this is the nature of the startup beast, isn't it? Just a disclaimer here about Bright. I was in the right place at the right time to get on this program. Bright is not aimed at solo entrepreneurs, but more at SMEs. They were happy for me to join the program because no one was using the facilities because of COVID. I could tell a lot of the training programs were aimed at larger scale businesses. I clearly just got really lucky that everyone was so supportive of me. So moving into the second quarter, after much training and getting used to the machines in the workshop, I developed my first working prototype on the laser cutter. So that process was ordering loads of samples of different plastics, cutting things out by hand and gluing them together, then designing on SolidWorks and messing around with the designs on the laser cutter. Basically just going through the usual design loops until I had something that worked. Once I had the first prototype down, I started working on the marketing side of things. I was advised to do a pilot study to get some primary marketing data. So I started studying marketing research for dummies to figure out how to do this. I developed a waiver form, I designed a questionnaire, and I started hunting for people to do a study with. I also got together a market analysis report thanks to a walkthrough I found on HubSpot. It included a 5 forces analysis, a SWOT analysis, buyer personas, and I also included my own UK tender analysis on the end of it too. I thought it was also a good idea, at the very least, to do all of the businessy documentation, even though I was kind of already actioning it. So I finally did a business model canvas and created some business flows for the sales, the finance, and the pilot study. I also did a design failure mode effect analysis, which uncovered some potential flaws in the design. After doing the test that I had developed from the analysis and getting people to try the first prototype, I wasn't happy with the way it worked. So it was time to do a complete design overhaul. Again, that looked like making prototypes by hand, redesigning on SolidWorks, and spending time with the laser cutter, developing the mechanics of the new design. Once I was happy, I created a batch of the final working prototypes. Only doing 2 rounds of complete design overhauls is pretty good because I usually like to do at least 3 rounds. In Q3, I wanted to get this pilot study going. So I approached various companies in industries that use masks a lot, like food manufacturing, dentistry, and veterinary surgeries. But hospitality is where I saw the most need for the ear saver. So besides healthcare, I think hospitality had it particularly hard when it came to masks because the staff were public facing, they were dealing with food and drink, and they had very long shifts in generally uncomfortable environments. I walked past this cafe and saw they were using knitted homemade ear savers. So I went and had a chat with them and they told me they were working pretty much double shifts because the company had to let so many of their staff go. So they were more than happy to get involved with the study. Once I got that going, I placed the order to get the ear saver manufactured with my supplier, and then I started to look into UKCA marking, or in other words, CE marking before we left the EU. As you couldn't do anything without a mask, I had to consider that the ear saver was now used in every single situation going. So I concluded that I had to safety test it in line with medical devices as well as personal protective equipment. I focused on PPE to begin with because during the pandemic, the CE marking documents for PPE were released to the public to get more businesses to manufacture masks. However, I did hit a wall here. Although my previous employment has allowed me to be experienced at understanding the requirements of the CE documents, which is writing the tests, doing the test, and writing the reports, I was still a bit dubious about harmonizing the documents. So I did feel like it was time to get someone else on board to oversee this. This meant that I needed a grant, which meant that I needed to get my sales projections in order. I already had face mask tenders from the past, which showed what could be made, but I needed a solid prediction of what was going to happen in the future. So I started contacting marketing research companies to get a forecast on face mask sales. I got a couple of quotes together from a few of them, and the average cost was about £3,000 per report. Then someone put me onto the idea of going to the Business and IP Centre at the Brighton Jubilee Library to see if they could help me out. And they had one of the forecast reports that I had just received a quote for. So I ended up with a full marketing document with face mask sales projections for the next 10 years. In Q4, I started looking into getting the grants applications in place. During this time, there were problems with the production of the ear saver, so I was also spending some time troubleshooting with my supplier. I met with a business coach to get my sales skills up and figure out how to get some more proof to help with the grants applications. But then something happened that completely changed my path. One of my colleagues had to take her business trip out to Brazil and was like, I really could have done with this product last week when I was on my long haul flight. That comment pretty much changed everything. The aviation industry didn't even enter my mind this entire time, and it wasn't in the sales forecast either. It made me realize that I was so deep in the NHS idea that I totally forgot why I had even been looking at the ear saver in the first place. 18 months previous to this moment, in March 2020, I had exactly the same problem when I extracted myself from Thailand on a long-haul flight because of COVID. I also remember thinking for the best part of 2020 that this COVID thing is going to blow over, so there's no point in chasing any COVID products. This was an untapped industry for my products, and it didn't have to meet any safety standards. People were just wearing nondescript face coverings. So I stopped all work on the grants applications, the safety testing, and I dropped the NHS idea. All my efforts were aimed at getting the ear saver into the aviation industry. People were trapped. If they wanted to go on holiday, they had to do these flights with uncomfortable masks on. By this point, I had received my first batch of ear savers and went through a few design loops with the packaging and instructions. Then I went to Gatwick Airport, armed with my ear savers and a clipboard, ready to get waiver signatures from holidaymakers. Then I started approaching people and literally no one would talk to me. Everyone was panicking about getting through customs with the PCR test and the complicated paperwork, and everyone was absolutely petrified of being near human beings in general. I needed to get onto the other side of customers where people weren't panicking so bad. I tried to strategize to get a kiosk, but Gatwick is obviously horrendously expensive. So I ended up booking a holiday for January because I was a little bit jealous. In 2022, when I got on my flights, I did do a lot of people watching to see who was having the problems with their ears. I whittled my target customer down to 50+ couples who were retired, whose children have left the nest, and who like to go on holidays to these faraway destinations. I also saw that potentially there were tall guys that could have been a good target, but I focused on the 50+. I just saw there were more problems with them and they were more likely to buy something to make their lives more comfortable. I also got a couple of snaps with the air hostesses using the ear saver and got some nice in situ marketing pictures too. When I got back, I started to learn how to develop a digital marketing strategy and aimed it at my ideal customer. I interviewed one of my mum's friends who's retired and is a bit of a travel addict and really dug into where she was hanging out online. The aim was to figure out where I could put myself in front of her. So I wanted to know what she was looking at online, generally what she likes on a website, and how she handled the ear saver. I aim to get this on Amazon because I myself do all my shopping on there for holidays, and you get some really good feedback from the reviews too. This would supplement the pilot studies immensely. I was confirmed as a seller at the beginning of January, and it took me nearly 8 weeks to get set up and get the ear saver onto Amazon. To be clear, this isn't Amazon FBA, so this was me sending the ear saver out and not Amazon. Then at the end of March, a bombshell happened. They changed the law about wearing face coverings on flights, and it was down to the discretion of the airlines whether they were compulsory or not. And this is when I decided to start wrapping things up with the ear saver. The NHS supply chain is just too big of a beast to tackle without the clout of all that feedback. When I had my business meeting with my coach in 2021, I predicted that face masks were going to be on flights for the summer holidays. We were on the brink of Omicron, we were waiting for the government to put us in another lockdown for Christmas, and various countries had already gone back into full lockdown. Things were looking grim at Christmas 2021, and I did not predict that it was going to take me 3 months to get a single product up onto Amazon Prime. So going into April and just in time for the law change, I was finally allowed onto Amazon FBA to sell on Prime. I had sent my inventory to their warehouse and it was just stuck in their check-in for weeks on end. Even though I wanted to back off the ear saver, Europe was still a bit fragile with the lockdowns. So I continued to make my listing and website as good as possible without hiring a marketeer in. I had access to a full photo studio at +X and had the opportunity to make a somewhat okay how-to video. I'm not going to link that for you because, to be honest, it was my first video and I kind of really hate it. Anyways, I have spent most of my time documenting what I've been doing since finishing the listing. Next time, if I choose to do another project, this would be the way that I order the tasks. 1, get the idea and just hatch it out. 2, do the business model canvas and stick it on the wall next to my computer screen so I have to look at it every day. Then 3, do the market research and maybe look at the grant stuff. Then 4, look at doing the first working prototype. So that wraps up my very quick overview of my project, and I hope this has all made sense. This is my project, it's my design rights, and there was obviously a lot more to it. And I'm more than happy to be completely transparent with any methods, designs, spreadsheets, and any of the resources I've mentioned here. So if you have any questions, please do leave me a like and a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope it was informative for you, as I've really enjoyed being able to speak freely about my journey. Take care, and I do hope to see you again soon.